some developments that I think improve Tennessee's chances to make the college football playoff. And I would start with this. It has become apparently obvious that the Cats have been declawed. I thought that the Cats would be a tough matchup for the Vols. Now, after what they did over the weekend and the fact they haven't scored more than 20 points all season, they lost to Auburn 24-10. I was wrong. That's not a tough matchup. I think that clearly is a strong indication that Tennessee can roll on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that's one of the biggest advantages for Tennessee, is that the Cats are just. I think they have. We debated last week which team has quit the most: Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Auburn, or Kentucky. Looks like Kentucky's quit more than the other three. Interestingly enough, which is wild to think about. But yeah,
it is, because they're more based off high school recruiting. So you would think those guys would stick it out a little bit longer. I thought that was really surprising. I could see an Ole Miss team quitting. I could more see a Tennessee team quitting because they don't have mercenaries, but they have some guys that Lance Hurd could mail it in and say, listen, my ankle's hurt, or theoretically they could be out of playoff contention and he could mail it in. But really, it seems like Kentucky's doing that, which makes me rethink the dedication of players, both from an NIL standpoint and more. All right, so Bank on It brought to you by Commercial Bank, and our next step is this. The Vols need some help to make the SEC championship game. That's a pretty clear Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Okay, so if Tennessee, LSU, and Texas A&M win the remainder of their games, the Tigers and Aggies would set up for a rematch in the SEC championship game. Now, it's again assuming Tennessee beats Georgia, which is a monstrous assumption. But wouldn't that be the perfect scenario if Tennessee beat Georgia and didn't have to play in the SEC championship game? I still think there's a lot of pride there, and winning the conference means something. But Caleb, you brought this up a long time ago. So Tennessee would be number 5, host theoretically the worst team that makes the college football playoff, or 6, wherever the loser of the SEC championship would go. And this is very hypothetical, okay? But Caleb, would that be the best case scenario? Do we want to bank on that?
That would be a dream scenario for Tennessee. Here's why that'd be a dream scenario. LSU would be 10-2. Texas A&M would be 11-1. They'd be playing each other. If LSU wins, Tennessee has the fewest losses of any SEC team, but can't get the first round bye because they didn't win the SEC title. So they just get the bye by skipping the SEC title and getting to play as the 5 seed at home against the group of 5 champion. But if LSU loses, Dave, you're not going to... Both Tennessee and LSU would vie for the highest seed of the non-first round bye people. You're not going to give a 3-loss LSU a bye over a 1-loss... I mean, you're not going to give a 3-loss LSU a higher seed than a 1-loss Tennessee.
True. So you're saying they could help everybody that's not following. They could get the bye?
No, I didn't mean that. No, they can't get the bye.
Okay, I think you misspoke there. They would get the home game.
Yeah. Put it this way. The perfect seed for the college football playoff, the dream seed is the 5 seed. You want that over any seed possible. The dream for Tennessee would be to win out, not play for the SEC championship, and get the 5 seed. That's better than playing for the SEC championship and getting the first round bye. By any reasonable definition, that is. And so if you're Tennessee and you win out, and LSU wins out, and Texas A&M wins out, by the way, those 2 things are very, very possible if you've seen how Texas and Alabama are playing recently. If that happens, 2-loss LSU faces 1-loss Texas A&M for the SEC title. Tennessee's effectively a lock to get the 5 seed. They're effectively a lock to be the highest seeded SEC team that doesn't get the first round bye. And that is, I can't get over the fact that that's a dream scenario for Tennessee.
My third contention from the weekend that you can read on Off the Hook Sports, will drop that in the chat board now if you would like to give it a read, but don't leave us, that's for sure, is brought to you by our friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. And they've got the awesome Fire Opals, affordable game day jewelry. They want to be your jeweler. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. And that is this. Vanderbilt's by far the toughest team left on Tennessee's schedule that's not named Georgia. And it's not even close. We know UTEP's terrible. Mississippi State is terrible. Kentucky, we just illustrated how bad they are. It's going to go into that Vanderbilt game most likely as a must-win situation. And I agree with Caleb on what he said. They're not going to stumble in that scenario. But Caleb, that as far as a one-on-one matchup, I mean, Vanderbilt's for real. I mean, they played over the weekend, and obviously they have some monstrous wins. They beat Alabama 40-35 in Nashville, but they also took Texas to the wire over the weekend in a 27-24 loss. And you can say Texas is bouncing back from the Georgia loss and that they were wounded and licking their wounds and all that stuff, but I'm sorry. I mean, nobody has the excuse of overlooking Vanderbilt from this point. Fair?
Yeah. Nobody has an excuse to overlook Vanderbilt. Not at all. By the way, people are asking if Tennessee had one loss, wouldn't they be in the title over LSU because of the head-to-head versus Texas A&M? No, because I think the tiebreaker looks at record against common opponents.
Yes.
And Tennessee and LSU have a common opponent, which is Arkansas. LSU beat Arkansas. Tennessee lost to Arkansas.
Right.
So, yeah.
I did way too much research early Sunday morning.
Yeah, so that's the issue. And people are, so that's why LSU would go. So yeah, so you're right. The whole season comes down to Georgia and Vanderbilt at the end of the year. And oh my gosh, Dave, if Tennessee beats Georgia and what you're saying is in play, then they're going to go all out against Vanderbilt even more, than they even would, because now you're playing for that 5 seed. Guys, that 5 seed is the magic seed. But you're right, if they lose to Georgia, they're still going to go all out against Vanderbilt, because it's win and you're in the playoff, and lose and you're not. So I agree. They should win the next 3 relatively easily. Also, we just know how good Josh Heupel is at home. So that makes it even more likely for Tennessee.
Well, and we've said it before, that's worth 7 points. So if you're playing a group of 5 team at home, I mean, you're most likely going to win that game in Neyland Stadium.
I totally agree. So,
and I'll tell you this too. I don't know what the spread would be, but if there were some projections that Tennessee could host Penn State at one point, I wouldn't even be concerned about Penn State.
No.
Well, I mean, at home, and you can include conference champions too. So if you want to say, look, Oregon or anybody at home, how many teams would you seriously be concerned with Tennessee if they hosted a game in the first round of the college football playoffs? How many teams would you be seriously concerned with? Obviously, Georgia is one. I think Oregon would be one, although I'll stick by my Big Nasty's argument that teams from the South are going to win those games more times than not. I mean, of course, Texas would have to be one. But, I mean, how many teams would scare you in Neyland Stadium right now? Assuming that the offense continues to improve, Paul says nobody. I could make that argument. Nobody. I mean, that's a high-pressure situation on the road. I think Tennessee's favored almost over anybody in that scenario.
And, well, Dave, if what you say is possible,
it is possible.
I mean, if what you say happens, it's – okay, let's just look at this real quick. I'm looking at Texas A&M's schedule. Dave, I think they're going to be favored in every remaining game, including Texas. I think they're going to be favored over Texas. They get Texas at home. So I think they're going to be favored to finish 11-1. Let's go to LSU's schedule. I think LSU is going to be favored in every game. I think they'll be favored over Alabama at home in 2 weeks. And then they go Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. They'll be favored in all 3 of those games. Tennessee will be favored in every game but the Georgia game. And it's not like beating Georgia is outside of the realm of possibility, right? So we're talking a very strong possibility that Tennessee gets the 5 seed. Because if that all happens, Tennessee's getting the 5 seed. If they get the 5 seed, they're not just getting Penn State at home. They're not just getting what you talk about the Oregons or anybody like that. They're getting the Group of 5 champion at home. The lower level non-Power 4 schools. They're going to get Boise State or Army or Navy or one of those schools at home the first week. That's a dream scenario. And then the second week, they're going to play like BYU probably the second week.
Derek says, so because someone beat Arkansas and we didn't, but we didn't play LSU and Texas A&M, they get in over with more losses. No, these would be equal losses.
It has to be. It's Derek. Yes. I think what Derek's confused about is he's saying LSU has 2 losses to Tennessee's 1. Derek, you're forgetting one of those losses is not a conference loss. It's conference record, not your overall record.